Welcome to the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. We have uncensored conversations. We exchange information and we provide a ton of resources for the listeners and the viewers of this podcast. That's why I say it viewers, because not only are we streaming on all the major podcast platforms that you like to listen to, we also provide video formats for people that like to watch them, like me. I love watching podcasts if I have a choice. You can watch these interviews on Spotify, the free version, or our YouTube channel, which is Penton Consulting Solutions, LLC. I'm your host, your Fire Medic CEO, LP. Got a very special guest from my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. In the building today, Miss Erica Renee.
Yes.
She's the founder of TBI Uncovered, which is a great podcast. I've been on that podcast. She had a great interview. She and I had some very detailed discussions about some of the things we're going to talk about today. Not only is she the founder of TBI Uncovered, which is a platform curated with traumatic brain injuries. So I'll say TBI for now on, but that's what it means. She's curated this platform for TBI survivors and survivor-alike stories. She offers tips and other resources for those that are impacted by traumatic brain injury. If you're watching this podcast, you're going to be able to see her social media links on the screen. So I always tell people, you got to watch these interviews because you miss some of the stuff. But never fear, if you don't like watching podcasts, that's okay. I'm going to have her link tree and her IG for TBI_Uncovered in the show notes when this episode airs. Erica, I want to thank you so much for joining the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. But before we get started, I got some housekeeping stuff that I got to give to everyone. So if you're triggered at any point during this podcast and you need help immediately, call 911. You got mandated reporters that are going to answer the phone. You got mandated reporters that will show up. These are police, fire, and or EMS, depending on what your issue is. That's how everything gets started, with the documentation and the link to some resources. If you don't have an immediate need, but you still need help with issues of substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or drugs, we provide 3 websites and phone numbers. If you are dealing with suicidal ideation, know somebody that's dealing with suicidal ideation, no matter who they are, no matter where they are in the United States, you can call 988. 988 is available toll-free and 24/7. We talk about 4 things under the umbrella of public and mental health. We cover domestic violence, sexually based offenses, human and sex trafficking, and finally, true crime. Now, under the true crime moniker, we talk about missing persons cases specific. That could be a runaway, kidnapping, or an abduction. So we're going to talk from a true crime perspective today with our guest, Erica Walker. Erica, I want you to give us, and thank you first of all for being here with us. I want you to share a little bit about who you are and how you came to have this traumatic brain injury.
Okay, so first off, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. So I do a variety of things, but my heart is set on, I'm called to be an author, first and foremost. But unfortunately, I sustained an injury, a TBI, traumatic brain injury, on June 1st, which is roughly 2 days after my 21st birthday. And, I had this big old party celebration, and then 2 days later, I got injured. And, the events leading up to that were just like, I'd say it was like a bad dream turned to a nightmare. Well, it started with a beautiful dream, then it turned to a nightmare quickly, but things were left real quick. Like I said, it happened on June 1st, and things happened so fast that day. And I don't remember everything, but I do remember certain details. I know I had a good time. I'm always having a good time. I'm going to have fun regardless where I'm at. And, I just remember before the incident happened, I didn't see anything, so I don't know, like, what came from. I don't know where it came from. I didn't hear anything. It's like I blacked out almost before it happened. And what's so funny is that I felt like my body was trying to warn me in a sense that something was about to occur, but I didn't take note of it. And I remember my heart beating really fast before it happened. And then I remember I blacked out. And when I blacked out, I didn't hear a gunshot. I didn't see anybody. I didn't hear no screaming. I didn't hear anything. It was like if you see a movie and a person, if you blink your eyes, you see dark. It's how fast it happened. And it was just such a a quick process. And the same day the injury occurred, they had a peace march also after my injury. But they had a peace march, I believe, earlier that day. There was nothing peaceful about that. Like, why you have a peace march and then this occurs? So it's funny, it's ironic to me how that happens. But nonetheless, so I obtained my TBI after getting shot, and I was told my brain swelled a very very big, very large, like a large like balloon or something like that. And so I had to get rushed to the hospital immediately. And I was told that when I was in an ambulance that I flatlined twice and I had to be resuscitated. And I had a stroke on my right side along the way, and I stopped breathing and all that kind of stuff. I had a stroke, all kind of stuff. I had immediate surgery where they had to drain my brain first because before you can have surgery in your head, you have to have that surgery to drain your brain because I guess whatever they do, they have to get to some kind of part or whatever. If your brain is swollen, they can't see it, I guess. So they had to drain my brain first, and then I was able to have brain surgery after that. And I was placed in a medically induced coma. So after the coma, I did. It wasn't looking good. It was like a 5%. I had a 5% chance of survival that night. I was expecting to make it through the night. Thank God I did, and it was very bleak, very meek, and it was just. I was told it was hundreds of people at the hospital, and I know quite a few people, but you never know how much you love until something happens. And so I was told like people came up, showed up, or whatever. People are praying, and around doing like prayer circles or whatever, and things like that. And I think it was beautiful to see. But I was going through it, and then also I went to I believe an extended facility. I think it was about a month and a half. I went to an extended care facility, and I was there maybe a week or two, and they found an infection in my head, and I had to have another brain surgery. And so after the second brain surgery, I started. So I think before I wasn't showing any signs of like brain activity. And so after the second surgery, I started showing signs of brain activity and things like that. And I was being more receptive to it, seeing more brain waves. And so, but at first they were like, "We're gonna pull the plug," and they was like, my parents and my family was like, "No, we're not pulling. Don't give her a chance. We're not pulling the plug. Let her give a chance and see what she's probably gonna do and see if she can come back around." And thank God I did. So here we are.
Absolutely. Now, what year was this? You said in June. What year?
2008. I was 21. I just turned 21 2 days prior to getting shot in the head.
The individual who fired the weapon, is there a open case against that person?
I'm not sure what's going on at this point. I'm not sure. I have no recollection of what's going on. Initially, I did speak to, the detective or whatever, like at the beginning, like back in 08. But they asked me to identify somebody. Like, I don't know, so I can't identify nobody. They're putting the person in jail because I didn't see anybody. So that would be okay. So I felt like I can't tell you nothing because I didn't see anything. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I didn't see anything, and I don't know what's going on at this point. I haven't asked about it in quite a while, so I have no idea about. To my knowledge, it's not. I think it's still open, if I'm not mistaken.
And the reason I ask that is because anytime that there's a open case or potential for an open case, we just give a quick disclaimer. So just like on any social media or any media platform, whether it's print or television or magazine or what have you, anybody that is potentially or alleged to be a perpetrator of a crime or crimes is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That being said, that does not mean that I or we at the Trigger Warning Talk podcast do not believe Erica or anybody that has a traumatic issue that happened to them where someone caused their trauma or people caused their trauma to happen. But we have to give that legal disclaimer. Everybody's proven innocent or everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That being said, do you know if anyone at the birthday party, has anyone came to you and said, "Hey, I was there, I saw this"? Do they think it was somebody who was an invitee?
No.
Was this outside?
I was outside a gas station.
Okay.
In the city of St. Louis. My party was 2 days before, but it happened on my party was Friday. I got shot that Sunday, so it was 2 days between. Yeah.
2 days before. We're from St. Louis, Missouri. While I was working for a fire department in St. Louis County, and private EMS service in the St. Louis metro area, COVID comes. And so I and my wife, we relocate to Charlotte because I end up retiring. A lot of neurological issues that we see some COVID patients are having now with brain fog and other neurological deficits, which is what a traumatic brain injury is. It's a neurological deficit typically caused by a traumatic situation. For you, what was life like in the early days of the post-surgery, post-stroke from having this TBI? Not to mention just having to recover from being critically injured by this firearm.
So it was like that before all this happened?
What was life like after you got home from the hospital?
Oh, okay. I believe I had a period of time. Well, I started talking. I lost my voice. I couldn't talk for about 4.5 months, give or take. I say when I didn't go home immediately. I went to another. I was told go to the rehab center. It's the best one in Missouri, X, Y, and Z. And I went there for about a month and a half. I was about a month and a half ish, almost 2 months. And then after I went there, I had to go to nursing home because my family didn't have a home that was accessible, because this is nothing. It doesn't ever happen in our family. Like, people are pretty healthy, and for the most part in our family. So this was like a total shock to everybody. Like, so nobody home was prepared to receive, was no wheelchair accessible. So unfortunately, I had to go to a nursing home. I lived there about roughly maybe a little over a year, and before I got to go home. And the home visit after that, it was an adjustment because we lived in an apartment, and so it wasn't accessible. Well, it was accessible, but not like everyone was accessible, I should say. And so certain parts were accessible and certain parts weren't. And so it was very some doors weren't wide enough. I guess it was kind of wheelchair accessible, but certain things were not. Like, my bathroom was very accessible, and the kitchen was very accessible. But living room, the dining room, like that, it was pretty accessible, pretty okay. But and I just basically, I didn't talk much. I didn't talk a whole lot. I didn't do anything for my maybe like almost 6 months after I got home. I didn't do anything. Like, I literally would get up, eat breakfast or whatever, watch TV, and eat whatever. The whole routine. Get up, eat breakfast, watch TV, go to bed every day for like 6 months. And like one day, I was on my computer. I had got a laptop for Christmas the prior year. I'm scrolling on the computer, and I see, the ads on the side of the, you check your email or whatever. See the ads on the side. I saw University of Phoenix. I said, And so I'm thinking, okay. So I clicked on it, just curious, and I think I seen the communications, because I was in school before and going for communications, but I put it in to get put aside because I got injured. And so I said, if my interest, I said, oh, okay, I think I want to go to school. And so I clicked on it, and I read up on it, and I think I called the number and started going to school online. And I graduated 2 years. I graduated on time 2 years later, so I didn't have a delay or nothing. And so I got my first degree, my associate degree from University of Phoenix. And I went online first because I was ashamed to be seen in my wheelchair, because nobody knew the Erica in the wheelchair. Erica, you walking or whatever. And I really was prideful in a sense, because I wasn't used to seeing myself in the wheelchair, let alone other people. And so I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. So I was in my little bubble, and I really left my room. In my little bubble at my desk, that was it. I went to my desk, and that was it. And so I had to deal with a lot of things, confidence issues, a lot of mental, self-esteem issues, like things like that. And so it's been quite a journey. And went to school. Then I said, okay, I like school. I'm a school girl by nature anyway. And so I said, okay, I graduated, so I want to go to school again. And this time I was comfortable to go out to school. So I ended up going to University of Missouri St. Louis, so for short. And I loved it. And I won't say people were the kindest all the time. There was a couple instances where I didn't get some help. Like, people don't take my book back off the back of my chair for me sometimes, and classroom weren't always accessible, and it was a bit much. The elevator worked sometimes. I can go to class all the times, and so it was an adjustment. But I worked with it, and I graduated again on time. and I got my bachelor's degree in media studies. So I've had my ups and downs throughout the journeys or whatever, but overall, I love going to school and graduating, whatever like that, and here I am. I wrote my book and things like that. So yeah.
What year did you graduate? Well, what year was it when you got your associates from University of Phoenix? Because I went there. I didn't finish their program, but I have some credits from University of Phoenix in Earth City, which is in St. Louis County.
Yeah, so that's when I was online, but this main location that I was at or registered.
And then, so what year was that when you got your associates?
2012. 2012.
Okay. And so this is 4 years after your TBI started.
Correct.
TBI. And then, what year did you graduate from UMSL?
2016. I had took a break. I was in therapy and going to school, so I had took a break because there was a lot of mental activity going on. But I took a break. Well, actually, I went to school. I started there in 2013, in January 2013. So it was like winter. I guess the winter time. Well, I would consider it spring maybe. So I guess the year was it's kind of like a funny. It was like in the middle of the semester, or the start of the semester. So it was January though when I went there. So. But yeah, and I had graduated Manga Cum Laude. So
with honors, yeah. Having a traumatic brain injury and graduate not only from one college but two, one with an associate's, and then you graduated from UMSL, which is very prestigious in the state of Missouri because you got UMKC. Of course, the flagship is Mizzou, which is University of Missouri in Columbia. People know about that because of their Division I Missouri Tigers. Again, UMKC in Kansas City, Missouri, and then UMSL, which is the University of Missouri in St. Louis. And I know about that because I work in a fire department that covers Normandy. Yeah, we would take our apparatus and do training. Like I learned how to drive the fire truck on UMSL's campus.
Really?
Like that, we get calls all the time at that Metrolink station that's right next to UMSL's campus. Like, oh my God, so many EMS calls come out of there. It's ridiculous. But we'll talk about that another time. Everybody's whatever your emergency is your emergency. We're gonna show up no matter what it is or what time it is. And I'll just leave it at that. After you graduated with your bachelor's degree from UMSL in 2016, what did you do then?
I started interning in April of 2016 at STL-TV in the TV station. And so media studies was my field. So I was uber excited about being there. I was so like, I was like I was in dreamland because I've always loved movies since I was a little girl. And so just being in that space is like, I took 1,000 pictures. I thought I was like a groupie or something, but I took 1,000 pictures. And I just love the experience. I sucked it all in. I worked hard. I got several awards. I got they call STL Jewel Awards. I got 2 STL Jewel Awards. For 20 for back then, and then in 2020 I got another one. And I interned there for maybe 3 years. So I did intern there, and I did like teleprompter. I helped direct the show, helped produce the show, a couple of shows. I had a good time. And did operated the graphics machine. I was all over the place in there, and I edited some videos and stuff, and it was just a fun experience. And I just loved it.
Public access channel that's owned by St. Louis City of St. Louis that you work for.
I was intern there. Yep.
I want to talk more for a little bit about the work that you had to do in the early days of recovery from this TBI. I know you had the encephalopathy, which is fluid and swelling of the brain. And people got to understand, so this is where my paramedic stuff is going to come out.
Okay, yeah, fancy words, yeah.
People got to understand that when we're talking about traumatic brain injury, and the brain is a greedy organ. You can live without your limbs, your arms, your legs, your hands, your feet. And so having a traumatic brain injury, because the brain needs 2 things all the time: an oxygenated blood and sugar. For a person that has a traumatic brain injury, not only do you have to deal with the swelling a lot of times because your skull does not expand only when you're a
Mm-hmm.
baby. But once those
Mm-hmm.
bones fuse, your brain will get larger in size just because of your growth. But at a certain point, it's going to stop. And if you have a traumatic brain injury, a lot of times your brain will swell. A lot of times people will experience strokes, which is a clot in the brain. Now, did you have clot or did you have a brain bleed?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I just thought I had a stroke, and it affected my right side. My right hand is still affected, and so I'm
You
not
probably
sure.
had to since you, yeah. A lot of
But
times with
I do know that I have a balloon in my somewhere in my chest area. I got a balloon that protects my heart and stuff and all that. So preventing getting a blood clot or whatever. So I do know that. But I'm not sure if I had a blood. I don't think I had a blood. I would never told you that if I did. That's,
yeah.
that's a good
And
question. So,
you probably had a hemorrhagic stroke, which means a brain bleed, especially due to the trauma from that bullet,
mm,
that
I have to
round,
find out.
um, which most people that have TBIs from a trauma have a hemorrhagic or brain bleed other than a clot.
Um,
And so for you, let me say this. I've always told people if I had to have my choice between having a heart attack or a stroke, I want to pick the heart attack every day and twice on Sunday because most people recover fully from a heart attack, and a heart attack is not cardiac arrest, folks. Heart
mm,
attack leads to cardiac arrest, but cardiac arrest can be that by itself. And a heart attack is where there's a clot in one of your coronary arteries, which are the arteries that feed the heart its oxygenated blood. There's a clot that happens that blocks that blood flow, which causes you to have a heart attack. Typically, you'll have pain, like men have referred pain, like on the right or left side, down the arm. Women typically have no pain in their arm, or they typically have belly pain. And so, having a heart attack, most people recover from those things. Most people don't end up in ICU or on a ventilator when they have a heart attack. But a stroke is such a debilitating thing, and there are people that have long-term, you know, symptomatic issues with having a stroke years and years after they had the stroke. You know, they might have hemiparesis, which is, you know, weakness on one side of the body. They might be hemiplegic, which is paralyzed on one side of the body. They may have full paralysis, you know, either from the neck down, from the waist down, or whatever. And so for you being 21 years old, not only having this TBI, you had this stroke, and you're still recovering from that. What is that process like of doing PT, physical therapy, OT, occupational therapy? Because I know you had to do both. Can you talk about those things?
oh goodness, it's still doing it. What you talking about?
You're doing it.
That hasn't stopped. I'm not stopping until I'll come back for everything. I'm not stopping until I get back to 100%, but 20% actually. But it was tough initially. Sorry about the noise. They're cutting grass over here. Um, so initially, when I very first started getting PT, my legs had been moved from June till I went there. I would call my turnaround hospital, St. Mary's. I said I went there about maybe maybe July, August, September. I think three and a half months later. So my legs had been stretched in 3.5 months. And so PT for the first time, I cried because I felt she broke my legs. I feel like I cried like it was like crocodile tears. Like I really, really cried. Like you're hurting me. Like leave me alone. Don't touch me because I only touch because they hurt so bad. Because I had moved so long. So it's very hard at first. And then after a while, it got better, better, better. And then now it's more so like it's easier for me now versus back then because back then I could say it was real tough. And my body wasn't really my brain was still healing and stuff and still, piecing together the neurons and the neurotransmitters are still trying to connect and still do what they do. And so my body, I really now is got a hang of things. So it's getting used to doing certain things. And with neuroplasticity, continually doing something over and over again, the same activity, over and over again, your brain remembers that and it forms those neural pathways. So it's easier. And when you do more repetitions, it's easier for it to remember what to do. And so, but before that, leading up to that was difficult, like extremely hard. And so, because I wasn't even talking back then, I had a trach, and I had all these tubes. Well, I had a feeding tube, then I had my trach thing, and it was a lot going on. It was a lot. And so, just from getting transferred from my wheelchair with all these little tubes in my body, and then it was uncomfortable. I always been uncomfortable, so I knew things going on. I was a big old baby, and so I'm a lot tougher now. But back then, I want no parts of it, and so it was a different transition. But oh my goodness, just thinking about this, it's like wow, where I came from. But definitely quite a journey. It was very hard though overall.
Which therapy was the most challenging?
Physical,
Overall,
therapy. I hate physical therapy. And your basic question, physical therapy, PT.
do you hate it? I mean, I know you do it.
Not now. Back then I was like, back then I did, but now I love it now. But back then, throw it away.
Were you going to war with your therapist?
You know, well, I was in soccer for quite a while when I went to therapy, and so I didn't talk about 4 months later. And so once I got to talk, we kind of did like I was like, this hurts. Don't stop moving me. That hurts. I was like stop, but you got to push past the pain sometimes because if you don't, you always stop at the pain point. It's not you might not get used to extend any further. So you got to push past the pain sometimes. So as long as I'm not breaking anything, it's okay. Yeah.
This is the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. We're sponsored by Spotify for Podcasters. We are produced by my company, Penton Pending Consulting Solutions, LLC. We're talking with Erica Renee, a survivor of a traumatic brain injury or TBI from a gunshot that she experienced a couple of days after her 21st birthday party. And we were just talking about therapy and occupational therapy or PT and OT. I want to ask you a very serious question about pain, especially dealing with how your pain was treated back then, because we know about the opioid crisis. Everything about the opioid crisis involves not only street drugs or what's being utilized in street drugs, but also prescription medications. And we know that there are a lot of lawsuits that happen. Big Pharma had to pay all these billions of dollars because these doctors were getting these, they were writing prescriptions for Percocets and Vicodin like they were giving out Tic Tacs. I know people that were taking 30 to 60 of these pills a day. So for you, how did the opioid crisis affect you during that time? Or before the opioid crisis, what we know it to be now. How was your pain management treated?
Well, back then I had a feeding tube, so I had to get pain medicine inserted through a tube. So I don't know what the pain medicine was. It was just liquid or whatever they gave me. But once I got my feeding tube taken out, they would give me, I believe, Tylenol, ibuprofen maybe. I'm not really sure. And it happened, I think I did it frequently because my head felt like a ton of bricks or something. Like, even now I have intense headaches, like, still. And I feel like they're getting worse the older I'm getting, I feel like. Because back then, they were pretty bad, but I don't call them being this bad. But I know I'm able to maintain it now better than I could back then. But I think I was able to give me Tylenol or something like that to handle the pain. And I had my head bandaged too. Like after I had surgery, I still remember having my head bandaged or whatever. When I took it out, oh my goodness, it was such a. For that they're like yanking my head. I felt like it was just like, and people don't understand having a headache. It's like it's my head, like it's actually my head. So it's like even when I say now I have a headache, it's like I don't think people take it as seriously because I guess I still do stuff. I guess that doesn't mean I'm not hurting because I'm still doing something that has nothing to do with it. And so it just amazes me how people just take the simplest things like and not act like it's like shrug it off like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It is a big of a deal. And like even like now, I sometimes have light sensitivity. I've been noticing lately now, and so it's different. And I never knew. I've seen research about this more, but I've seen research about this, but they have long term effects after brain injuries. It's like wow, because I never experienced fatigue until like now, never had light sensitivity until now, no sensitivity until now. Like I love loud noises, but you got to turn down some. You got to turn down a little bit. So depending on what's going on, my brain is just it's a lot. It can be a lot sometimes. So it's a lot different than it was back then. Hopefully, that's your question. I feel like it did.
Oh, it did.
Okay.
No, it did because that's so incredible that you didn't get caught up in that opioid crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so many people who have had all these different injuries, whether it was a from a GSW, a gunshot wound, whether it was from a fall, whether it was from a car accident, they may have had some fibromyalgia, just different things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So many people that I know got caught up in having um, these prescription meds that they were taking. So it's amazing that you didn't have to deal with that. How did you deal? Like, how was that? Just the over the counter stuff working for you? Like, how did that help you, if anything?
Well, it works. First, I don't like taking medicine. First of all, if I take it, I won't. I will deal with a headache. I will deal with pain. Except cramps. Cramps. I don't like. I don't like. I can't. I don't want to take cramps. I can't take it. But like other pain, like head pain, I know other ways to manage it. For example, like now, I know when having a headache or something, I have a heating pad. So I put a heating pad on my pillow and I'll lay on it. And that's a natural way of going about it. We don't want to take pain medicine because I don't like to take pain pills myself. So that's one natural thing I do. Or just like turn the lights off. It helps sometimes too. Just it calms your mind. I don't know what it does, but it calms my mind for some reason. Turn the lights off or whatever. It just being just doing nothing but being still. Not thinking about nothing, but just let your mind relax and just let your mind relax. I do that sometimes as well, and just playing like soothing music or whatever. This also helps too with my brain and things like that, and pain and all that kind of stuff. And so, but I don't like taking pain medicine. I don't have to. I do take it though. Don't get me wrong. I will take it if it gets too intense for me, or I just need like immediate relief. I'll just take it. But I don't like taking medicine. I don't like taking medicine at all though. It's not my first choice.
Does your pain get so bad that it's like, hey, I gotta go to the hospital. I just gotta go to the
I
hospital.
went to the hospital. Yes, I went to the hospital one time because it got that bad. I've only been my
What did
one.
they?
I think last was it this year? Last year. I come out here this year, so it was last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. Went to the
How did they
hospital.
treat? How did they treat your pain in the hospital?
I did get you my pain. Um, what did they do? Okay, memory. It's a brain injury thing, brain thing. Let's see. I believe they gave me an IV and with some medicine. I believe it was some kind of pain medicine. I don't know if it was Tylenol or what it was. I have no idea.
Because I know
I
a
think
lot of times.
they prescribed me something. I think they prescribed me something. I didn't have to stay. I did come home, but they prescribed me something. But I think I know I had some water or whatever. I do know that, and I lay down, and I think and it's funny because I feel like I almost felt like they thought I was lying a little bit. Like, okay, what are you here for? Like, it's just a headache. Like a headache, seriously. Like, but when you have a TBI and you have a gunshot, you can't take stuff lightly. So it's important to go to the hospital, something like that. If you have been injured or have been injured, and so I feel like they took it not jokingly, but like they took it as serious. They could have took it, and so um, yeah. that was kind of interesting too. But nonetheless, I believe they gave us Tylenol and some water and things like that, and I was on my way. Or some prescribed some medicine. I was on my way.
I thought about that because I remember being a paramedic student, and I didn't do any clinicals in a whole lot of places, but I did do clinicals at St. Mary's, which is a level 2 hospital. And so at St. Mary's, we would give patients Toradol, which is basically liquid ibuprofen. We would give a narcotic like a fentanyl or a morphine, which is those are opiates. If it was really serious, we would give the strongest med that you can give that's a narcotic is called, it begins with a D, Degadron. And so when you give that, that drug, and you don't need a whole lot of it, you don't need a whole lot of it at all. And so people come in and they get treated for pain. Those are some of the things that we give, and typically they won't give you a prescription for that, but they will give you a prescription for some of the lower level things. As far as your occupational therapy, what are some of the challenges that you had to relearn how to do, that just really just made you like, man, I got to learn how to do this all over again? I've been doing this.
I was like a baby. I call myself a TBI Build-A-Bear.
Okay.
TBI Build-A-Bear. I'm like a baby. It's all over again because I learned how to sit by myself, and I have learned how to roll and to feed myself again, to put on my shirt, and all of them. I don't think are so minute, but they're huge. For someone who's been injured and get a lost ability to do it. Because I know when I first started learning how to put on my shirt about myself, I was looking at my therapist like, you been talking about myself one arm? Yeah, okay. I was like, it's not happening. But she showed me. I said, you do it, and so she did. I said, oh, wow. So I love challenges. So I like people challenge me. I like a challenge. And so it took me a while to get it, but I got it. And that was like, it took me 2 seconds to put my shirt on. Like it doesn't even take that long. So like jackets and stuff are a little bit different because you gotta, if it's like a little different or whatever, hoodies and stuff like that, it's a little different. But shirts is like whatever. I'm like, it's taking a long time to do that. And sitting up by myself, it took about maybe it took a long time because the muscles that it takes to sit up are so many little muscles, and they gotta be strengthened, and they're weak. It's like my right side is affected, so it's like this side is the affected side. So it's not as strong as my left side. My left side is really strong. My right side is stronger than it was. It's getting stronger daily, and so that was quite a challenge because I didn't have anything. I fall over, just fall over, just like a little baby, whatever. So they tip over. I tipped over like that too, and so it was just kind of journey learning. I'll tell you about maybe 5-6 months or so. I got it. So I took a picture actually, and I got it, and I said, "Can you take a picture of me?" So it's really it's milestones like that just make you look back like, wow, what a journey. And so little things like that people take for granted, and it's like things you could do. They're so, you think it's so little, they're huge. Someone who has the ability to do it for a period of time.
One of the things that I think about coming from St. Louis is, St. Louis is known for decades of being the nation's leader in murders, the murder capital of the U.S. I know some months ago we went, and when I say we, I'm talking about St. Louis. St. Louis went from number 1 to number 3, switched places with New Orleans.
Okay.
But typically, it's in the top 5 always. It's always in the top 3, and for the most part, the majority of the times, it's number 1. Yeah. And like I said, it's been that way for decades. And it's per capita. St. Louis drop down to under 300,000 people in the city, because St. Louis is its own county also. So for the city and county of St. Louis, with under 300,000 people, it is leading the nation in murders, more than, because they go by per 100,000. Um, that's more than cities like New York, which is the most populous city in the U.S. with over 10 million people, more than the second largest city, which is LA, more than the third largest city, which is Chicago. Now, Chicago is up there in terms of one of the top, in the top 10 in terms of murder rates, but it's less than Chicago. You know, Chicago is the third largest city in the U.S., you know, with about 5 million people in the greater Chicagoland area. And so, and like a Houston, which is the fourth largest city, you know, we have eclipsed all of those large populations with the number of murders that happen in the gateway city. For you, how does that affect you knowing that, man, I'm part of this statistic now? How does that mess with your mental health?
It doesn't, because I must be alive. That's how I think about it. I must be alive. I don't feed into all that. Yes, I'm part of the statistic, but it doesn't define me in so many words.
Just because, I'm glad you said that, just because you're part of the statistic does not make you a statistic. That's right. That's right.
So I don't even feed into that. I just okay, that's good enough. Next. It doesn't even I don't let it consume my mind. Anything negative, I don't let it. I mean, of course, if you see it, like, whatever. But it's like, okay, well, what am I do with it? I can either think about it, dwell on it over and over again, or I can just see if what it is and say, okay, whatever, and just brush it off. Like, and I choose to brush it off, like, whatever. So
my cousin was killed in 2014. One of my cousins, he was killed in an act of senseless gun violence. He was shot in the back of his, yeah, thank you. He was shot in the back of his head with a 22, and the bullet didn't exit. He was, 24 years old, with children. And, his children will never have him be present with them to walk them down the aisle if they decide to get married, any type of situation on whatever level that is, won't physically see them grow into the women that they are, because he has daughters that they're going to be. I just think about how senseless, and nobody ever was convicted or tried or even arrested for his murder. And so when I think about that, it just pains me, because so many unsolved murders, especially with guns, happen in St. Louis. And, like, even when we were there a couple of weeks ago for my brother-in-law's wedding anniversary, or not anniversary, it's a wedding reception, I felt like, because normally when I come to St. Louis, I'm a firearm owner, but I do it all the right way, and so normally when I'm in St. Louis, I have my firearm with me. Well, we flew there and back here to Charlotte. I didn't bring my firearm, so I felt completely almost naked.
Sure you did.
I was on, my head was like an owl. It was just on the swivel the whole time, more so than it is when I come to. And it's just a shame when you see all the violence, especially where people are utilizing guns. And guns are not the only thing that causes some traumatic injuries.
No.
Everything that happens from a trauma perspective starts here in the brain. And from there, seeing like this pyramid where the next thing that's physically used are these, hands, you're hitting, punching, slapping, kicking, all of that stuff. The next level up is people using sharp edge, pointy weapons, tools, whatever. It could be a broken bottle, it could be a knife, it could be scissors, it could be a nice pick, you
Razor
know,
blade.
razor blade. I got a metal ruler here that's a sharp edged weapon. It's a thin thing. I can cut paper with this. I can stab. I can poke. All kind of stuff. As you go up to the next level, that's when you see your firearms, which are gets the most media coverage and attention. Yeah. And then from that point, if you go up higher, that's when you see your explosives. You know, you don't see a lot of that, but when you see those stories, they cause a lot of mass casualty. Yeah. And it could be something, then you have your miscellaneous things that also cause mass casualty incidents like chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, you know, those things. But the firearm gets the most attention. You know, I'm going to share on my screen here some of the stuff that you have on your TBI Undercover IG page. And I like some of the content that you post because it's really helpful and insightful and it's short and sweet to the point. You know, one of the things that you highlighted was Gun Violence Awareness Month. You posted this 3 days ago, and you said that, and this was on the Unsilenced, this was on the My Survivor Voice, the podcast. And one of the things you posted was awareness begins when you choose to no longer be silent. And then there's a snippet of the interview. The other thing like that you post are some of the reels that you have. You know, you got this one where you talk about the speech impediment that causes fast, slurred, or quiet talking is
dysarthria.
You know, difficulty speaking. You know, you see that a lot with people that have stroke symptoms or stroke patients.
Yes.
You know, you are a big advocate on not only gun violence but TBI. Yes. There's another thing that you posted that I like and I wanted to talk about because this comes into the mental health perspective. You said myth number 7 because you got a bunch of these myths that you post. Wearing a will guarantee I do not sustain a brain injury. Why did you post that?
Because it doesn't. I've interviewed people and it doesn't guarantee it. I mean, I had two different people that one particular person that I interviewed, her son died from TBI. I'm not sure if he had a helmet on or he did have a helmet on, but it's called Playing Safe with Preston, and he basically go to schools that advocate for her son about the importance of wearing helmets. So I guess he didn't have a helmet on. She advocates for wearing helmets. It's so important that you wear a helmet. But if you wear a helmet, it doesn't guarantee that you won't get a brain injury. But unless it increases the chances of you getting a brain injury, I'll say that the chance you get one is not as high as a person who doesn't have anything on their head. You know.
How long did you have to wear a helmet?
I don't think I wore a helmet. I don't think I wore a helmet before. I don't recall.
Even in the early days.
I know my head was wrapped. You know what? I didn't, but it was too hard. It was too much pressure, and so it might see, especially where it was too much pressure on my head. I don't think I could take it.
Okay.
But they did have my head wrapped up in like a bandage, like a mummy almost, or whatever. Yeah.
Myth number 10: a person who sustains a brain injury will probably be unable to ever resume any kind of activity post-injury. And what you say is, thankfully, it says probably because it's obvious they have never seen TBI Uncovered, which is your podcast. Because if they, quote unquote, have this myth, would be put to shame. Keep surpassing the odds and breaking barriers, winning Survivor crew. When we talk about your life post TBI, and we're talking about these myths, because we talk a lot about stigma, stereotypes, and taboos associated with traumas. For you, when you're talking to people, whether it's in a public format or in private, how do you explain to them the importance of mental health? and the need for it?
Um, I don't always talk about mental health per se. I think I did one video on mental health. Um, I don't talk about mental health as much as I tell people my story when it comes about when they say why what you're being in a wheelchair or whatever. And I have to share my story obviously, and it's when it comes out. It's when it all comes up. And so, but as far as like, I did video tying it in mental health because it's your brain. It's your brain at the end of the day, and you're affected mentally when you get a TBI. In mental health, but you're affected mentally obviously because of mental health. And so they tie in like they intertwine with each other. But I talk about brain more. So I talk about TBIs more so than mental health more. Because I don't know a whole lot about mental health. So I try to stay in my lane, talk about what I know, not what I don't know. But I will do more research on mental health when I get back to the swing of things.
You have on this screen here, and again, I gotta watch these interviews. You have posted a picture where you're wearing the shirt that says "Support Brain Injury Awareness," and it has a green ribbon that is indicative of TBI supporters. One of the comments that I see is a comment made by a young man who lives in St. Louis who also suffered from a TBI from a gunshot wound. His name is Jahan. And he wrote, "Beautiful smile. How did you meet Mr. Jahan? Because that's my guy."
You know what? Clubhouse. Well, what about you, man? I met you on Clubhouse too. So
I never Clubhouse, but we're all from St. Louis. You know, his story is.
We didn't know back then. We didn't know back then, though. We always from St. Louis, just something happened. No, St. Louis, so yeah. So
his story is so phenomenal. I'm telling you,
it is. He
has made such a great and continuous recovery.
Yes, he is.
Dealing with his TBI. You say you seek to provide TBI and brain injury information to the brain injury community as well as inform others about the injury that affects millions worldwide. From a worldwide perspective, are the treatments for TBI different internationally compared to what they are here in the States?
I believe it is. I know some countries. I interviewed a couple of people from out different countries. I believe Australia was one. England was another one that I interviewed somebody, and their protocol is different from here in the States. I can't really go into detail. I can't remember exactly how different it is, but I think the treatment there is. I don't think they charge for. Well, it's Canada. They don't charge for healthcare. I believe in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's different for one, because here it's like, or in the United States, period, it's through the roof, like it's through the roof, it's through the roof. So that's one difference. And as far as like the hospital stay, I'm not sure. I feel like I know a particular person that I'm thinking about. I don't think theirs was that severe. They had a TBI, but it wasn't as severe as a person like me, or that needs a little bit more care. Because I don't think they sustained it as. I don't think it was as severe. The TBI wasn't as severe as TBI as the one I sustained. So my considered a severe traumatic brain injury, and I think it was just a traumatic brain injury or something like that. Anyhow, it wasn't as severe as mine, but it's still relevant though. But it's very different how they gotta treat people out of the country, I believe. And I want to say it's almost worse, maybe. Don't quote me. I'm thinking it's worse. I have to look my interview and see what he said about it. But I don't think it was like ours. I think ours is better than theirs. But yeah, I'll stick with that. So I look at it again.
We always talk about resolutions and plans of action. We don't just trauma dump. We don't just talk about trauma and all this stuff. I always say if it's just going to be a dialogue only conversation, just count me out. I'd rather pick the lid off my belly button while watching something on Netflix because that's just trauma dumping. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
We always talk about plans of action. What's the resolution to whatever the subject that we cover? And the guests
Yes.
are well aware of that. For you, what helps you and what's helping you from the mental health perspective, not just physical therapy and occupational therapy, from the mental health perspective, because I'm sure that had to be a huge part in your recovery. What do you utilize for mental health recovery and therapy?
Well, my faith in God. Praying is one thing I do daily, several times a day. Praying several times a day, not just once a day, several times a day. It keeps me. I grew up in the faith, so it's been embedded in me since I was a little kid, and I didn't really get introduced to it until my teenage, early 20 years, and I've
Mhm.
been in full swing of it ever since. But I didn't start there. But your mental health is very important. But my faith in God has definitely brought me a mighty long way. And outside of that, exercise is another thing because when you exercise, you release endorphins. It's like a happy chemical to your brain, and so that's another thing that helps as well. Exercise, and another thing I do at the exercise and praying. Besides that, I just surround myself positivity. I like to listen to positive music. I'm big on gospel, listening to gospel music because gospel music is pretty positive. Gospel music or something soft or maybe jazz, maybe just something that I need to see positivity. I can't. You went around negativity. It really, 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 really. I do not. my body is really it tenses up. It doesn't like. I don't like negativity by itself, but my body doesn't like it either. And so I really, really try to say it on positivity as much as I can. Of course, it's inevitable, because you TV and you got different on social media, whatever, you're gonna see some stuff. But for the most part, I try to filter out what I watch, what I see, what I hear, and what I let affect me. So I'm very very conscious about what I do and how I do it. If I do entertain negativity, it's not for a long period of time.
You wrote a book
Yeah, I did.
that's on Amazon
Yes, it is. My
called
baby.
yeah, it's called Through the Lens, a book of short stories. It's in paperback. This book is listed on Amazon. So again, I gotta watch these interviews because I missed this stuff. But all the links on there in her link tree that'll be part of the description when this comes out. And Through the Lens, and I'm just going to read it real quick. It says, Through the Lens, a book of short stories is about stories that derive from the heart and were inspired by God, life experiences, and learned principles. All the stories are based on a female teenager's perception, but do not include the male perspective. The stories will shed light on.
Because they exclude the male perspective.
Oh, do not exclude the male perspective. Look, don't call me out because I don't have my glasses on right now. Because Miss Girl Peter, I'm like, Steve, why you got your glasses on? Okay. The stories will shed light on various issues that young adults may struggle with, such as isolation, suicide, peer pressure, drugs, family complications, inadequacy, judgment, and salvation. These stories are real-life examples compacted with tough lessons and key messages in hopes of permeating the minds of the younger generation to find positive ways to handle tribulations of life despite their present circumstances. Every story is intended to teach all young adults about the significance of kindness, sacrifice, temperance, and love. With this book, I hope to provide awareness to the recurring problems that most teenagers and young adults are confronted with. When you wrote this book, how long did it take you, first of all?
Well, let's start here first. Actually, I wrote the stories when I was in college.
Okay.
So it didn't take me anything. I just put the stories in the book. So I already had them. I just had to edit them or some down, edit them some, and then compile them into a book. So it wasn't like I had to sit there and write it, and it was like I wrote it while I was in school, and I didn't even know I was writing it while I was in school. My cousin gave me the idea. He said, "You got these stories. What you do with them?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "What you put in the book?" So that's what I did, and here we go through the lenses part. So
And I love the picture on the front of the book.
Mm.
There's
Everybody loves the picture. The black girl with the
yeah,
camera.
with the camera. And I love her little bow tie that she has on.
Yeah. The school
You know,
girl.
little schoolgirl. And it just is important that not only are you talking about getting rid of the stigmas and stereotypes and taboos associated with the misinformation about TBIs, writing a book and being a black woman. People always say, and there was an old saying that still goes around to this day: if you want to keep something from black people, put it in a book.
Mm.
We have 180 that all day long. There's so many black people that are writing books, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, whether it's their story or somebody else's story, or it is. I know a woman that I interviewed on my podcast, and she's written 26 journals.
Wow.
26 journals that are
Mm.
different things, and she just wrote a book. I believe it's an autobiographical book about her journey, because
That's
she's
amazing.
dealt with domestic violence and sexual traumas and different things like that, which was the inspiration for her to start journaling, because she said that's what helped
Mm.
with overcoming these traumas. And everything does not work for everybody. Some people, like
True.
yourself, focus on your faith. Some people focus on journaling. Some people focus on Reiki. Some people focus on the tapping, the EFT. Some people focus
Mm.
on hypnotherapy, or EMDR, which is great for PTSD. There's so many modalities that are out there, and we like highlighting those individuals that want to talk about those modalities. And one thing that I say when it comes to the metaphysical modalities, you don't have to take any medication. This is not like snake oil salesmen, and these are not people that are trying to get in your pocket and hey, you buy all these prescriptions and all this stuff or whatever. Give it a try for a couple of weeks. There's nothing that you got to put in your body in regards to a metaphysical modality, and so this book is going to be something that can help. Either you can get in the paperback or the Kindle version. As we wrap up, I want to ask you about the work that you do as an advocate for those that are dealing with it, as well as those that are supportive of those that are dealing with TBIs. What are some of the things that you do outside of writing books and doing podcasts to help educate people about TBI?
Well, I create videos, video content about different topics. Even if I didn't go through the topic myself, I know people do or have gone through it. So I try to research it, or I do research it and learn much about it as I can, and I do video about it. So I create videos, and then I also I talk to people every day, every inbox every day. Someone's mentioned me about something, or he talk to my person, or my child, or this person, next person. I'm always getting asked. I'm always open to have a conversation with anybody when I'm available. But it's definitely I want to say it's almost like a calling almost that I didn't particularly ask for, but that it just happened to me, and it happened for me. I mean, it had something happen to me, but it's happening for me, and I've been listening to different people who have changed my life, helped me change my life because I'm inspired by I'm inspired by people too, people who go through different things, similar as me and things like that. But it's an honor to be able to help people who are like in similar situation as mine, and not it's mine, but it's help people in general, encourage people. It's just a blessing within itself. I talk to people who are not injured people, and I help them as well. So it's like I'm just being used all around the board, and so it's an honor to me to be able to help anybody, whether you have injury or not injury. Anybody can help. Help you. If I can help you, I definitely do it. So I'm an open book, and I enjoy it, and it blesses me to help others as well. And so it's to get the keeps on giving, right?
Two
So
final questions.
have
Absolutely. No, absolutely, you're right. Two final questions. One, if you could write a letter or an email to little Erica at whatever age that you were under, what would you say?
Girl, and I quote, girl, Erica, girl, you made it. So go through some things, but you'll be okay. And you're gonna help more people than you can imagine. So keep on doing what you're doing and stay encouraged. Keep your faith in God and keep pressing forward. Don't let nobody stop you. But you got this. So God's got you.
That's awesome. My last question: what you got coming down the pike, Miss Erica Renee? What?
You know, always something going on. Always something going on, Erica.
Always.
So on the pipeline, I'm thinking about launching a course for survivors, but you don't have to be a survivor to and be a partaker of this. I love creating graphics and stuff like that. I'm a creative. I love creating things, and I've created a lot of stuff for different people. And I'm just like, well, what if I made a course out of it and help people who want to be creative too, and what's happened to that. So, because I mean, at the end of the day, yes, we have brain injuries, yes, we are injured, but we still have life. We still have life. So let's do something fun or whatever. So just give people something else to do, get the board or something, or want to create something, get some create some stuff. So I'm considering launching a course, a mini Canva course to be exact, and I'm not sure when. So I'm going to go and give a date. So I don't be held accountable because I don't know. But I'm considering launching the course, a mini Canva course. And also my second book, which about my personal story, the one Little book of short stories are fabricated stories with real facts in them, but you would never know unless you know me. And so, but this my second book will be my story. It'd be Erica's story. It won't be nothing made up about it. It'd be me about me or whatever. And so, I guess coming out, I would say. I don't like giving dates and years because you got to get a comment before. But I want to say next year. I'm going to say 2024. I'm going to press to get it done this year and launch it next year. It's my goal. I'm working with somebody on it too to make sure it happens. So next year, my book will be out. I'm putting it out there. I'm confident now. First, I did interviews before, but I'm confident now to say 2024 will be out. My personal story. And also, we're out to TBI Uncovered. Get some new survivors, things like that. TBI Uncovered 4 coming soon and launching preferably July, maybe August. I started the first time. It won't begin August, so I give myself to August if I want to consider not doing it again or not see before. And besides beyond that, just more therapy, and more research and stuff like that. No more videos, obviously, content, whatever.
I want to thank you so much, and we're going to go ahead and just wrap this up because I got one more statement that I want to read to everybody, and this is from Erica's TB Uncovered IG page. She had a post that says, if you experience trauma, you may need more sleep than most people, a routine that values gentle movement. You may need to take breaks during arguments or intense emotional experiences. Long-term therapy, even after quote-unquote processing the experience. So we always talk about therapy. And that's why I asked her those questions about therapy. Because you have to absolutely utilize therapy. When it comes to trauma, anybody can get it, anybody can give it. So the last two things that is listed is if you experience trauma, you may need space to check out of social events and recharge. And last, more time to get to know someone before trusting them. The part that really stood out to me is what you wrote. And I'm going to read it not in order. Scars and trauma can be healed. But the part that I highlighted is bullets don't have names and trauma doesn't have a timeline. They just leave scars. And I'm going to say it again. Bullets don't have names and trauma doesn't have a timeline. They just leave scars. That's very powerful. And I want people to keep that in mind anytime they see somebody with trauma. If you think somebody has trauma, trust your gut. If you think somebody has trauma, seek help with that person, maybe for that person, be a support system to that person. You can't drag somebody in to get help, because if they're not ready, you can always lead a horse to water, but you can't make that horse drink it unless they're thirsty. If you put them in too low amount of water, they're just going to walk through it and wade through it. If you put them in too much water, horses are great swimmers, but they can drown. That doesn't mean that they're going to drink it. So, again, you can't force people to do something that they're not ready to do. And when it comes to trauma, again, we continue to talk about how these things affect us from a public and a mental health perspective. I want to thank you, Erica Renee, for joining us on the Triple One Talk podcast. I want to wish you much peace and blessings be upon you and your family and your loved ones. You are such a phenomenal person. You're such an inspirational person. So for those that want to get an education, if she can do it, damn it, you can do it. Without having a stroke or a TBI. For those that don't believe education is important, nobody can take that away from you. And you have more doors that are open for you with that piece of paper than without.
That's what I say. Okay, so everything.
Absolutely. I was just going to ask you, did you have any final thing to say?
Well, it's not, you kind of say you already said some stuff I was going to say, but at the end of the day, you never know what the person's going through. So remember to always be kind, because if they had a brain injury, you don't know if they've been through some trauma, you don't know what people go through. Everybody's going through something. And just because the person has a smile on their face and they're laughing or whatever, does not mean they're not going through something.
Right.
So people, we're good at putting on masks. So I smile plenty of times. Inside crying inside. So you just never know what the person's going through. So don't let what you see on the physical, on outside. Hi, I'm smiling. The effect on what's going on inside internally. So always be kind to people. You never know the person going through.
And that's it. Erica and Renee, folks. Tune in to season 4 of TBI Uncovered, streaming on most of your platforms. I see that not only are you doing a podcast, not only do you have a podcast, I see that you're streaming on some big platforms like Roku TV, and what's some of the other that your podcast streaming on?
Hulu, Roku, YouTube. YouTube's on YouTube. Hulu, Roku, YouTube. It's on the station I don't really know, but it's on there. So I think on LinkedIn, all these other things is on. Hulu, Roku.
Amazing.
And she on Saturdays at 2:00, I believe, 2 p.m. Central Time. Yeah.
That's it. We're going to move into our last segment. We're going to say farewell to our friend. I hope to be on season 4. You can always call me and I'll come on there anytime you want me to come on there, because I love TBI Uncovered. And we're going to move into this last segment that I want to share with everybody from the Charlie Project. And this young man, his name is Travis J. Allen. Travis J. Allen's been missing since December 27th of 2013. He was missing from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, classified as missing, sex male, race black, born February 26, 1980, which makes him 43 years old now. He was 33 at the time he was missing. His height and weight are 6 foot, 175 to 195 pounds. He was last seen wearing a red and white jacket, a red and white jacket, a black fleece jacket / vest, black or blue jeans, and a black and blue sneakers. Distinguishing characteristics: he's a black male, African American male, black hair, brown eyes. Allen has the following tats or tattoos. The word, quote, "nun," son, "nun" is N-U-N, son is S-O-N, on his left forearm. The name Troy, like the movie Troy, on the inside of his left forearm. The words Flood City on his elbows, and the name Anethra, Anethra, on the left side of his chest. Here's a short detail of his disappearance. Allen was last seen in the 4900 block of Jean Street in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on December 27, 2013. He has never been heard from again. Few details are available in this case. If you have any information, good, bad, or ugly, about the whereabouts of Mr. Travis J. Allen, contact the investigating agency, which is the Baton Rouge Police Department, at 225-239-7832. Again, any information about Travis J. Allen, contact Baton Rouge PD at 225-239-7832. There's also a couple of links that I'm going to post in the show notes from the Louisiana Repository for Unidentified and Missing People, NamUs, and there's a Facebook page for Travis Allen. This will be all included in the link that I'm going to post from the Charlie Project about Mr. Allen, along with the links for Erica's contact information, her link tree primarily, and her IG page. In closing, as I always say, live in awareness, never live in fear. Take a Stop to Bleed first aid CPR course, because it's not a matter of if, but when and where an active violent incident, whether it be a shooter or some other violent critical incident that may happen, or some emergency that may happen, and these things can happen anywhere. You need to be a by-doer instead of being a bystander. As my man Doc always says, my work partner, we want you to learn how to be an immediate responder, because there are a lot of times that these situations do not have EMS response show up. There are a lot of times where these situations happen where they don't show that they're going to be able to help you if there's an active threat. So we have to understand how EMS works in these situations where, we are not going to be able to provide some of these services. It's very important that people understand how EMS works when it comes to violent critical incidents. Thank you all for joining us on the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. And in closing, LP out.